Our story today is about girls who are completely different from each other, but life brought them together to live in the same house. They're required to live, coexist, and accept each other with all their flaws and strengths. But before we begin, let me remind you to share your experiences in the comments if you've ever lived in shared housing before. All right, smart ones, let's get started. The girl who looks like a cute little cat with two buns, that's Lynn. She was on her way to her new shared residence, saying that she hates anything new and doesn't like starting anything at all. That's why she was stumbling around on her way to the new place. And allow me to say her story is kind of irritating to my eyes, but anyway, let's not judge people and just focus on the important stuff. Lynn arrives at the house and meets a kind lady named Grandma Tong. We find out she owns the house and rents it to girls. Lynn walks in and knocks on the door, but the girl inside is fighting with someone in the room and yelling that men aren't even allowed in the house, let alone the rooms. Eventually, she gives up and leaves, texting Lynn to tell her she's not home and to wait for her at the supermarket downstairs. But thankfully, Grandma Tong comes and says, "Don't worry, I'll open the door for you." The girl inside decides to avoid trouble and opens the door herself, saying, "I was just sleeping." Then she shows Lynn around the house quickly and takes her to her room, trying to cover up the mess inside. Then she comes back to Lynn and says, "I'm Sharif, third year English department, and your roommate's name is Nan." She's in economics and political science, and she's 25. Life hit her hard, so she had to pause her studies for a while. You won't see her much because she's either studying in the library or working. Then she adds, "Also, staying in the room with me is Kahan's sister. She's in media studies, but she's visiting her family in the countryside right now. Between you and me, it looks like she'll be single forever." As for the third room, that's taken by Jean, alone. She's in the fashion design department and thinks she's Bella Hadid. But really, Lynn, it's so nice to have you here. You truly light up the place. And as soon as her guy texted her that he had left, she put on a poker face, left Lynn alone, and walked out of the room. Lynn started looking around the room and found a box full of books and a photo of a ballerina, probably Nan, her roommate. She thought, let's just mind our own business, and went on exploring the rest of the house until she found an old, worn-out ballet shoe. What's the story with ballet in this house? But she ignored it and went to take a shower. Apparently, people here haven't heard of privacy, because Jean the fashionista suddenly barged into the bathroom and said, "Don't worry, we're all girls here." But the bowel wasn't going to wait, so they ended up introducing themselves in a very weird situation. Later, when Lynn went to sleep, she felt her roommate come back late at night, but she just went back to sleep. When she woke up, Nan was already gone. Seems like she really is always busy. Lynn went to the kitchen and made some toast with jam her mom had made and sent with her. She only used a tiny bit so the jam would last longer. But Sherry saw her, and Lynn noticed the look in her eyes like she was about to choke just from craving the jam. So Lynn gave her the toast before anything bad happened. The moment Sherry tasted the jam, she went wild and spread a ton of it on her toast. It was free after all. Poor Lynn was still recovering from the shock of her mom's jam being wasted when Jean came out of the bathroom in a towel, acting like she was from the streets of London. Then John assumed that Sherry made her some Nescafe to thank her for the jam, but it turned out she had already drunk it, while Lynn had neither eaten nor drunk anything. She let it go and asked them if her roommate was a ballerina, because she saw a photo in the room. The two girls looked at each other nervously and told her that the girl in the photo used to live in the room before her and that if she wanted to throw it away, she could. Then they quickly left, leaving her confused. So Lynn started settling in and putting her things around the house like the others. She went into her room to open a package her mom had sent, but found her roommate trying to sleep. So she apologized and stepped out. Then her phone rang, and she went into the bathroom to talk to her mom and tell her that she was okay, and everything was going fine, and that the girls were nice. She called her mom's husband to thank him for the money he had given her, and by the time she came out, her roommate had already left. Anyway, she went to college on her first day and was approached by a girl from her class who told her not to bother making friends anymore because she didn't join the welcome party yesterday and now everyone already knows each other. Then the girl left her and went over to a group of loud girls who were talking for no reason. So Lynn fixed her braid and headed to the lecture. There, she saw some girls mocking their friend for wearing a striped shirt, saying it looked so outdated. Lynn felt exposed, like the whole campus now knew she was from the village of Mit Abu el Farafir. The girls looked at her and noticed she was wearing stripes too, which made her feel embarrassed. But suddenly, a guy walked in looking like he had just come from basketball practice, and those same girls ran to him like he was their cousin or something. He went over to introduce himself to Lynn, who was about to fall asleep from boredom. When she looked at him, he froze. Could it really be love at first sight? Not very logical, to be honest. Anyway, Lynn kept avoiding him even when he told her they were in the same psychology department and asked to add her on Facebook. Then suddenly, the room lit up as a tall, broad-shouldered guy walked in with his hair slicked back with oil. She had never seen anyone like him in her hometown, and she immediately thought, by God, this is my husband and the father of my kids. When she got back home, she was craving oranges and went out to get some. When she returned, she found her roommate scolding her for leaving the TV on, saying that electricity isn't free. Lynn tried to apologize and offered her an orange, but the girl had already left without saying a word. Unfortunately, that wasn't Lynn's only problem in the house. Sherry had finished the entire jar of jam as if she had paid for it herself. That really upset Lynn. Was it possible that her mom went through all that effort making it, only for someone else to gobble it down so casually and behind her back too? And on top of that, she started becoming paranoid about keeping everything in order just to avoid getting scolded by Nan. But suddenly, she found herself playing nanny and washing Sherry's clothes. No one really took her seriously, and the next day she went to university. That same guy, the one who plays football, came and sat next to her. He borrowed a pen from her and tried to start a conversation. We found out that, God bless him, he had failed and was repeating the year. He even tapped her pen while talking, and she felt too shy to ask for it back until he finally left with that group of loud girls. If only the day had ended there. She came home angry and tried to leave a note for Nan telling her that she was fed up with this place, that everyone asked her for things, and no one did anything in return. But she crumpled the paper and threw it away, deciding to let it go. She left her room when she heard shouting. Jean had caught Sherry stealing her dresses and shoes and wearing them, and when Lynn accidentally slipped and confirmed she had washed the dress, thinking it belonged to Sherry, the two girls started fighting. That's why Sherry wasn't speaking to Lynn the next morning. But the new twist was that Nan actually spoke to Lynn and told her, "Be careful with what you say from now on. You're living in a room with someone else." Honestly, neither Lynn nor I understood what she meant. As for the two who were fighting, each one went and complained to her boyfriend about the other. Sherry's boyfriend gave Jean a dirty look, and Jean ended up arguing with her boyfriend over something silly. Back at university, Lynn went to get some food and bumped into Nan by chance. Then she noticed a girl who, upon seeing Nan, gave her a strange look and walked away. That's when Lynn realized this girl was the ballerina who used to live in their room. She froze, remembering she probably left because of the bullying. When she went to her lecture, Lynn was moved by the professor's words, especially after she found out that Yu had thrown away her pen. Lynn, who always used to get walked all over, was gone. From that moment on, a new Lynn was born. She went and confronted Yu, telling him that next time he borrows something, he should take care of it. He said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't notice." And she replied, "It's okay, it happens." She backed down a little, but at least she spoke up. After university, she went back home and found the two girls, who were fighting, now reconciled, sitting and eating with Nan. When she opened the fridge and found the jam was completely gone, she lost it and shouted, "That jam was my mom's." "And you finished it without even asking me. That's not acceptable," she said. But they replied, "Run along, smarty pants, go play somewhere else. We'll get you another one." Unfortunately, they were all mouth and she couldn't shut them up. That night, she was haunted by terrible nightmares about her school days, remembering how she had joined late in her final year due to family issues, and was always the target of bullying. Even when she woke up the next day, nothing went right. She ran into Sherry, who handed her a book and told her to go ahead to the library. But sadly, Lynn ended up waiting there like a fool until 8 p.m., while Sherry was off with her boyfriend the whole time. On top of that, she caused a scene at the library because Lynn had reserved a spot for her. Before leaving with all the books, Lynn coincidentally ran into the girl who used to live in her room and asked her why she left. God knows what the girl replied. To make the day even worse, Lynn got tossed around on the bus, and when she got off, it started raining. Honestly, if I were in her place, I'd have stood in the street crying, but she was tougher than me. She went back home and found them talking about her behind her back, saying she doesn't take care of herself. When they noticed she was standing behind them, Sherry told her her phone battery had died. Lynn picked up her bag and threw it out the window, telling them that she knew she wasn't amazing or anything, but they were the ones being fake. She hadn't asked for much, just a little kindness and decent treatment instead of gossip and pettiness. Then she left them and went to cry, feeling completely worthless, like she didn't belong anywhere, like she had no home. She fell asleep and dreamt of people calling her bad luck, saying she and her mother were cursed and someone dying in a car accident. It was midnight, and she had a high fever. Nan was putting cold compresses on her, and when Lynn woke up, she found them all treating her like royalty. They were the ones handling all the house chores and told her to just rest. They even made her a special soup, and Sherry apologized for what she did the night before. Nan told her, "If there's anything bothering you, just tell us. Don't keep it all inside, cheer up a bit, have faith in God." And that's exactly what happened. Each of the girls told the others what bothered them, and that made Lynn feel that they had their own problems too, just like her, and that she wasn't the center of the universe. At university, Yu bought her a new pen and asked for her Gmail, but she said none of your business and completely ignored him. So he went back to his friend, the guy with the vodka-slicked hair, and told him, "That girl with the bangs can't stand me. She won't even tell me her name, and yet all the other girls are dying for me." Then, a sneaky idea lit up in his mind, and he went to the professor and told her she should take attendance to know who's missing in class, all just to learn her name. But the professor exposed him in front of the whole class and told them about his brilliant suggestion. She said, "I'm kind, so I won't do that, but just be careful of the snakes among you." So everyone waited for him outside and gave him a proper beating. He went back to his friend, dragging his disappointment behind him, and they followed Lynn when they saw her walking alone. His friend ran up to her, pretending to introduce himself, and Lynn, not believing her luck, immediately told him her name, just to stop anyone from comparing her to some cheesy love song lyrics. When she returned home, she found Hans, their roommate who had been away, finally back. She welcomed Lynn with a warmth she had never felt before, like they'd been best friends for years. Then she gathered Sherry and Jean, and they all had drinks together. Hans kept trying to get them to spill secrets during the conversation. Maybe she was hoping Hans could help her find a groom from her hometown or something, but the girl didn't even have a brother or a male cousin. After that, Lynn got the courage to ask them about the roommate who used to live with them. She said, "Tell me, why did she leave? And why do you all stare at each other every time I bring her up?" Hans didn't hesitate and told her straight. "That girl messed up. She got pregnant, so she left the house and went her own way before Grandma Tong could find out. We tried to cover for her as much as we could." When Lynn heard the story, she felt bad for judging the girls and thinking they had bullied the girl out of the house. Then Nan came in and joined what was left of the gathering. She sat down and had a drink with them. Lynn started spilling some juicy confessions, like how Jean was dating 3 guys at once. But suddenly, Hans interrupted and told them she sees ghosts, and that there's a ghost in the shoe rack. Even if it sounded like nonsense, it creeped them out. Then Hans added that she had killed someone before. Nan jumped in and said, "There's someone in her life she wishes would die, so she could finally be free." Their talk scared Lynn and made her feel like she had ended up in a house full of lunatics. She looked at the shoe rack and felt haunted by bad memories, stuck in deep thought for a long while. As for Sherry, she woke up the next morning in shock when she saw men's clothes in the laundry. She was sure they belonged to her boyfriend, who had stayed over the night Lynn moved in, so she rushed to his place to give him the clothes before anyone saw them. But to her surprise, he told her the clothes weren't his. She nearly died trying to figure out which of the girls was sneaking guys into the house. If Grandma Tong found out, she'd throw all of them out into the street. But the strangest part was when she got back and saw a guy standing in front of their house. She was confused for a moment, but didn't think much of it, and went inside, only to find Lynn sitting alone and staring at the shoe rack. She asked Lynn where the others were, and Lynn told her that Hans had gone to a blind date party with her friends. That's when Sherry said that Hans was desperate to be in a relationship and would go out with anyone. Then she asked her, "And you, sweetheart? What's keeping you single all this time? Just asking, no judgment." Lynn replied that Nan was also single and living on the same planet just fine. But Sherry thought she had picked the worst role model of them all, and that if she kept following Nan's example, she'd never succeed in anything. Nan believed that love was a lie and complete nonsense, unlike Sherry, who saw it as something that added action to her life. Sherry then pulled out those clothes and said, "Look what I found. Looks like one of the girls brought us a disaster into the house." She was convinced it was Jean, because anything was possible from someone dating two guys behind her boyfriend's back. But anyway, she said, let's not get involved in people's business. Still, she couldn't stop herself from talking, and told Lynn that she didn't really go to the gym to work out. She had some other sneaky goals. But again, she added, let's not get involved in people's business. Then she grabbed a tissue and took Lynn with her to search Jean's room, trying to find out who had been with her. She wanted to catch her red-handed so she could blackmail her for money instead of having Grandma Tong kick her out of the house. From that point on, they started calling John Shonk because she was messy and shady. Soon after, Jean showed up and caught them both standing at the door of her room with the clothes in their hands. When they showed her the clothes, she simply said, "I don't know whose they are." And she said she hadn't brought anyone into the house, which left Sherry even more confused. She had no idea which one of the girls had brought the man, but she completely ruled out Nan. In her eyes, Nan had neither the time nor the energy for relationships, and no man could ever tolerate or love someone like her. She didn't wear makeup, didn't style her hair, and didn't dress like other girls her age, so it was next to impossible that she was the one. But Lynn had a different opinion, more aligned with psychological experts. She believed that some people could genuinely fall in love with someone like Nan. And if I may add to what Miss Lynn said, everyone deserves to be loved, and anyone who says otherwise deserves to be treated like Sherry. As for Nan, she rushed off to her job at the restaurant. But when her co-worker, the chef, saw her come in running, he told her to rest and gave her some water until she caught her breath. He kept watching her all day through the kitchen camera, which reminded her of a day when she had a stomachache. One of her coworkers from the supermarket had come to the restaurant to give her some medicine, and the chef had taken it from him. He then asked her if she was feeling sick and needed time off. She refused and said she would continue working. But he surprised her by saying he had fixed the broken camera in the restaurant, and that he would now be able to observe her properly, to know whether she was really okay or not. Honestly, he seems like a decent guy, but he's also giving off stalker vibes. And it was clear that she also thought he was a good person, since she remembered the camera incident and seemed genuinely happy. Meanwhile, back at the girl's house, the only one left for suspicion was Hans, since apparently she tried to get into a relationship every 5 seconds. After that, Sherry was zoning out over the food Lynn had cooked, pretending not to care so that the jam incident wouldn't happen again. But she ended up eating normally anyway. Then both of them saw Hans come back carrying her grandmother's clay pot after her blind date failed, and the guy ditched her. She got upset and started crying when Sherry asked her about the men's clothes. Hans said, "I swear I didn't mean anything by it, but no one really likes me anyway." After she went into her room, Sherry started gossiping again and told Lynn that she had seen Hans before with a guy named He, and they seemed really close, like they were in a relationship. So maybe Hans wasn't as lonely and single as she claimed. But it looked like the two of them acted more like cousins than lovers. Then Sherry, trying to provoke her, said, "What if you're the one who brought a guy into the house?" Lynn replied, "If you had seen the bliss I'm living in at the university, you wouldn't be saying that," and started telling her about the guy. Sherry said, "Hopefully we'll hear some good news from you soon. He clearly likes you. You two could end up being the hottest couple, just like me and my boyfriend Goo." At that, Lynn gave her a sneaky side-eye look. And Lynn asked her, "What if those clothes belong to your boyfriend?" But Sherry said, "Impossible, that's not even his size." Suddenly, Sherry dragged them all to the window because Jean had just gotten out of a fancy car, and the guy she was with looked rich and loaded. They were caught doing something inappropriate in public, so the girls waited for her at the door and started questioning her like she was their little sister's husband. But then they got shocked when they found out the man was actually married, though he claimed he was in the process of getting divorced because his wife didn't understand him. Classic excuse from every man. Still, Jean didn't care at all. She ignored them and walked away. And now the girls didn't know whether she was the one being too much or if they were just old-fashioned. The next night, Nan came back from work and saw a strange-looking man standing outside the house. He looked suspicious, but she didn't pay attention and just went inside. That's when the guy sent a message to Jean saying, "I'm here, and I know all your secrets." So what's his story? The next morning, Sherry woke up, checked her phone, and was about to go meet her boyfriend when Grandma Tong handed her a letter sent from London. Sherry took it and placed it in a box full of similar unopened letters and didn't read a single one. Then she went to the cafe, only to get a message from her boyfriend saying he just woke up and would be late. She replied, "No worries, I'm late too," even though she had no idea why she was lying. She imagined how her friends would react in her place and realized none of them would lie like her or say, "Take your time, baby," the way she did. Eventually, her boyfriend showed up and she gave him an expensive gift for an occasion even he didn't understand. He was so confused when she asked for her gift in return and told her he left it in his apartment. So she followed him there, and he started scrambling to find anything old he could give her. In the end, he told her he'd get her something better next time. Girl, I don't know why she went all out and spent so much on someone like him. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the journey of Sherry. From sly and scheming to full-on clown. Anyway, while she was heading home, she saw the same creepy man standing at the door again, this time holding a cheap bouquet of flowers. She glanced at the so-called gift her beloved had given her and realized, to her horror, that it was just a freebie from a newly opened shop. Hans had even gotten the same one earlier. The guy didn't even make the effort to personalize it. He didn't spend a single pound. That made her feel like she wasn't valued at all. Later, she and Hans sat watching from the window as Jean rejected the rich divorced guy, telling him there was no way she could ever be with him. Hans thought Jean didn't appreciate what she had. There were people who would melt over just one flower, let alone a full bouquet. Then Hans asked Sherry, "So, what did your boyfriend get you now that it's your 2-year anniversary?" We find out that Sherry had saved up a lot of money just to get him a gift. Jean laughed at her and claimed he had booked them a weekend trip, just so Sherry wouldn't look bad. And let this be a lesson, ladies. Save your money for your stomach and skincare products, especially if the guy is anything like that. The next day, Sherry packed up her clothes, pretending she was traveling with her boyfriend, when in fact she had no idea what to do. She eventually found herself heading to the cinema alone. Meanwhile, Jean was with her boyfriend at his friend's art exhibition and overheard them talking about her in a really disrespectful way. They were even mocking her looks. On top of that, the boyfriend's friend asked if Jean could model a revealing dress in his fashion show, and the boyfriend said, "Go ahead, bro, do whatever you want." At that point, Jean realized she was stuck between two guys who had no clue what respect or decency meant. She pretended to have a skin condition just to get herself out of the entire situation. As for Sherry, her day was totally ruined. She was out all alone, and even then, when she found out her boyfriend was out with his friends, she told him she was also out having fun with her friends. Meanwhile, back at home, Han was feeling jealous, thinking Sherry was living the perfect life, surrounded by beauty and good vibes. The next day, Sherry came back home after spending the day without any makeup. She started to feel that makeup made her look fake, and without it, she looked more real, more herself. When Grandma Tong saw her, she told her she looked beautiful just like that, and that every girl should go out makeup-free every now and then. Then she told her about a man with blonde hair and blue eyes, who once convinced her of her natural beauty when she was young. Was Grandma Tong secretly dating Hussein Fahmy or something? When Sherry went into the room with the other girls, they all finally discovered the mystery of the men's clothes. It turned out Grandma Tong had given them to Nan to leave out in the open so that the creepy man roaming the streets and chasing Jean would think there was a man in the house for their safety. So basically, they were all overreacting for nothing. That night, the girls found out that the creepy guy downstairs was harassing Jean. They all ran down together, and that's when he told Jean that he loved her and wanted to save her from her messed up life. But she snapped back, telling him to stay out of her business and that if he came near her again, she'd call the police. She grabbed the girls and was about to go back upstairs when the guy shouted in front of everyone, asking why she kept dating rich men and selling herself, begging her to respect herself and let him make it up to her. Honestly, he probably deserved a promotion from the creepy guy to the brave one. But Jean wasn't having it. She rejected his feelings and yelled at him to shut up because he was humiliating her in front of the whole neighborhood. The neighbors even called the police, and both of them got taken in. Still, the guy ignored the mess he was in and started telling the officer how much he loved her and just wanted her to live a life worthy of her. While the girls were sitting at home talking about her, they were wondering how someone who was supposed to be the daughter of a factory owner could be so broke to the point of doing what she did. And honestly, it was a fair question. It was also clear that Nan knew something but was keeping quiet, just watching Sherry gossip about Jean, until Jean suddenly appeared behind her, and Sherry got seriously embarrassed. Now allow me to pause the story just a bit to give you more context about Jean, in case you're as confused as the girls were. Jean sees herself as irresistibly beautiful, believing that all men would die for just a glance from her. That's why she goes to bars to handpick her lovers. She's the type to have one boyfriend who sweet talks her, another who spends money on her, and a third who just happened to come along, and she figures, why not? It doesn't matter to her if they're married, divorced, or even single with kids. And the crazy part is, she rotates through them. If one of them starts acting differently, she drops him the next day and replaces him with someone new. Except for one guy, her coworker. He's just a friend, not part of her dating circle. At the end of the day, she insists it's not her fault she's beautiful. Now back to the girls. One day, Han did a little digging and found out that Jean wasn't even enrolled in a university. She had lied to them. They started imagining that maybe she'd lied about everything, even her name. And when she walked in holding cups of coffee for everyone, they coldly said, "No thanks," got up, and left. The only one who accepted the coffee and didn't break her heart was Nan. And the next morning, when she went out for her workout, she ran into Tata Tong, who gave her some random advice about facing what she's been running from her whole life. Her words came at exactly the right moment. One day, Lynn woke up and found that Jean had left them macaroni, and she'd been the one buying food for several days, though no one had been eating it because her money was considered suspicious. But Nan told her to go ahead and eat. It would be a shame to throw food away. Lynn was still hesitant until Sherry the glutton came and started eating immediately. Then she regretted it when she learned Jean was the one who had bought it, and that really upset Jean. So Jean started drinking again and opened up to the man who had begun showing up regularly. At first it was just glances, but then she began talking to him, and he shared that his wife had left him and run off with her lover 10 years ago. Jean also started venting to him about the girls in the house, saying they treated her like a ghost. The truth is, they were pretty harsh. They gossiped and acted rudely right in front of her. That pushed her to complain even more to the man, saying the girls were disgusted by her like she was some kind of germ, and that just like she was lying to them, they were lying to her too. She even mentioned how Sherry wore her clothes behind her back and added that none of them were better than the other. While she was sitting there, a man walked into the bar, and she immediately tried to hide. She recognized him as the same guy she met on the day she got kicked out of her old apartment. He had come to the bar just to see her, and told her that he was fighting with his wife and wanted to get back together with Jean. But she told him it was over and to leave. The guy was shameless and didn't want to let her go until the older man she'd been talking to helped her get out of there. She then called her guy friend to come pick her up, and he took her to a nice restaurant. But she was shocked when she realized it was the same place where Nan worked. And while she was eating, she kept remembering the first time she ever saw Nan, how Nan had saved her from two women who were dragging her out because she had been dating their husbands. Until one day she was surprised to find out that Jean would be moving in with her, and from that day on, she stayed silent and never revealed Jean's truth, at least not yet. Meanwhile, Nan had her own story. That charming chef ran after her and even stopped the bus so she could catch it and not have to walk. And even though the gesture seemed small, it moved something inside her, something her mother had always tried to hide, but her face betrayed her feelings. When she got home, Jean immediately confronted her, asking why she acted like she didn't see her at the restaurant. Nan replied that they weren't allowed to talk to customers. Jean, acting all helpful, advised her to find a man who could support her and save her from this kind of struggle. Nan simply said, Thanks for the advice, but I can handle myself. That moment made Jean remember how, when they first started living together, Nan used to save every penny and even ate food that was about to go bad. Jean realized she would probably never truly understand her. Later, when Jean went back to the bar, she apologized to her new friend for what happened the last time. She told him that the man with the beard had found her when every door had slammed in her face and she had nowhere else to go. So, she said to herself, better the shadow of a man than the shadow of a wall, even if the cost was herself. But then his wife caught them, hit her in the street, and humiliated her completely. That's when she left and moved into the girl's apartment. There, she met Nan and told her a white lie about being a student because she wasn't about to spill her whole story. Her new friend told her, "But you're telling me everything now," she replied. "I'm telling you so you don't get the wrong idea. Everyone treats me like the evil stepmother from Cinderella these days." He then pointed out, "It seems like your waitress friend's opinion really matters to you." And just when it felt like he might start reaching the real her, she left him and sat with a random stranger, going back to her old ways. Meanwhile, at the university, Yu approached Lynn again and tried to talk to her. But she got nervous and made an excuse, saying she had just spotted Nan eating alone, then quickly left him and went to sit with her. And as soon as Nan asked her what was wrong, she told her everything that was scaring her, that she was afraid this guy might actually be trying to mock her or make fun of her like the kids did back in school. But Nan just looked at her and said, "Oh, lucky you, sweetheart. That's what's scaring you? I'd wish for a quarter of your worries. At least you're not stressing over debts or expenses. Things may be hard, but some people have it way harder. No need to be this scared. Just live your age." So Lynn took her advice and attended the department party. She even tried to act normal with Yu and ended up agreeing to dance with him. After that, she spotted Han dancing like fire and lighting up the party. Since Lynn had decided to be a whole new version of herself, she went to the hairdresser to get her hair styled in waves. But when she came back, the girls didn't like her new look at all. So Han took her straight back to the salon and told the stylist to return Lynn's hair to how it was, and to give her a refund too, telling her, "You're just taking advantage of her kindness and innocence." From that moment, Lynn started seeing Han as her role model. She even asked her to teach her how to dance, because she saw how Yu and the whole party were impressed by her moves. But Han lost hope in just 10 minutes and left to mind her own business since a friend had set her up on a date with a handsome guy. And you know our girl Han, she appreciates beauty, so she ran straight there. But when she met him, she saw her close guy friend sitting at the table behind them saying, "Good luck, artist." Turns out her luck really was good. She came back home singing, "Spring is here, the weather is lovely." When the girls asked about him, she said, "There's no one taller, no one more handsome, and he's such a gentleman. He even walked me to the bus and gave me a special ringtone." That was a miracle for her, because it was the first time a guy didn't just ghost her or walk off halfway, but sadly, the good day didn't last. She found her guy friend on the bus, roasting her about the date, and she snapped back saying, "I know you're dying to date me, but that's never gonna happen." He just smiled and said, "Well, thank God for small mercies. Wow, my dear, you're really popular, huh?" Meanwhile, Sherry was feeling a little jealous of everything going on, especially since her boyfriend was ignoring her and not even replying to her messages. And when Annie walked into Han's room, she found her saying that the guy from the date had sent her a message. Poor thing thought he was asking if she got home safely or if she was okay, but it turned out he messaged her to say, "Let's just be friends." It broke her heart badly. Sherry, of course, laughed at her and her heartbreak like it was no big deal, saying it wasn't even the first time this had happened. Even though she herself was also being played, she should have just kept quiet and minded her own business. Proof? Her own guy invited her to a party, and just when she got all dressed up and ready to go, he texted saying, "The party's over. Don't bother coming." And even though she was furious, she still replied, "No worries, baby. I'm not feeling well anyway." Lying again and again. Right after that, Jin stormed out of her room angry and called one of her flings to yell at him because he wanted her to come over late at night. She snapped, telling him she wasn't his maid and if he was going to treat her like that, he could keep his credit card. She didn't want it anymore. When she hung up, she found Sherry frozen in place, having overheard the whole conversation. And when she saw her drinking from her mug, she made a huge deal about it, saying that mug was pure and would always stay that way. Jin got furious, and they all came running out when they heard the fight. Let me just say, Jin tore her apart with words so badly that Sherry ended up crying and ran to her boyfriend to complain. Jin also went to the bar and complained to her older friend about everything Sherry was doing. But Jin doesn't waste time. After she finished venting, she went with the same guy she'd fought with earlier to see his backup apartment, the one he claimed would be their secret love nest behind his wife's back. That was the moment she remembered Nan, and how even the struggle and hustle with Nan was more honorable than selling herself to men who may or may not be worth it. So she tried to slip away from that sleazy boyfriend and said, "Let's go have dinner." They ended up at the restaurant where Nan works, and it was Nan who served them. Jin tried to say hi, but it wasn't allowed for Nan to chit-chat with customers. Later, Jin told her boyfriend to tip her well because she was her roommate. He actually did, but it made Nan uncomfortable. However, the sweet chef noticed she was feeling down, so he took her to the staff area and brought her a nice meal, telling her to eat well. That gesture really touched her. It felt like he was comforting her gently as she headed home. Jin was heading home in a taxi when she saw Nan walking alone, so she got out to walk with her, even though Nan had refused to ride in the cab. They walked together talking about money and their messed up lives full of hardship. Jin told her that her heart breaks every time she sees her struggling like that, and she suggested she apply for a scholarship to save money. But Nan asked her, "Why do you hate me?" and walked away before hearing any answer. The truth is, Jin was jealous of her. Life kept throwing punches at Nan, yet she still held on to her dignity and principles, not giving in to everything like Jin did. When Nan got home, she found Sherry talking to the girls, saying they needed to kick Jin out. But Jin herself walked in and told them she was leaving the house anyway. Let me pause from the drama here to tell you something completely unexpected. Jin's older friend at the bar had been secretly investigating her. He had photos of her pinned up and was intentionally getting closer to her. So the question now is, are we dealing with a psycho, or are we being unfair and the man's intentions are actually noble? Stick with me till the end and hopefully we'll find out together. A few days later, we learn that Nan's dream is just to be a normal girl with a simple office job like everyone else. She doesn't have the luxury to aim high like Jin suggested because her life is too hard. It turns out she's been exhausting herself this way because her brother has been in a coma for 4 months, and she's the one paying for all the hospital bills. One day, Nan went to visit her mom, gave her some money, and handed her a file without knowing what was inside. Her mom refused to tell her. When her day off came, it wasn't really a break for her. Nan ended up working even more than usual, giving private lessons, but God always sends her kind people. One of the families she worked for prepared food for her to take along, even if it meant she missed the bus and got caught in the rain. She arrived at the restaurant in rough shape, which the chef immediately noticed. So when she was about to leave, he ran after her with an umbrella and walked her all the way to the bus stop. Bless his kind heart. What's important here is that Nan was honest with him. She asked him to stop being so kind to her and looking after her because she'd be hurt if one day he changed and treated her differently. She was scared of that day, so she thought it was better not to expect anything. But he got on the bus with her and told her, "Then I'll just keep being nice to you forever. Deal with it." Honestly, girls, I'm officially giving the chef the title of Best Guy in the Series, because so far no one's topped his kindness. He even walked her all the way home, and after she went up, she waved goodbye to him from the window. But when she closed it, she accidentally hurt herself, and the girls rushed to check on her. She started crying, not knowing whether it was the bruise that hurt or just all the pressure building up inside her. Since Jin had left the apartment for a while, the girls started interviewing new potential roommates. Unfortunately, the last girl they interviewed turned out to be obsessively clean and clearly couldn't handle Han's chaotic lifestyle, so they told her thanks but no thanks. As for Jin, she had moved in with her boyfriend and seemed to be doing well. The next day, Lin told them about Yu and his long-haired friend, and how every time she got close to one of them, the other would jump in between, and now she didn't know which one she actually liked. Han teased her, saying, "Wow, you came from your country and found 2 guys falling for you already?" And they all laughed. They were all surprised to see Nan smiling and joking around, and she quickly ran to the bathroom, blushing. Not only that, she even put on lipstick before heading to work. Looks like someone's in love. Good luck to her. At night, after her shift ended, Nan found out that all her coworkers were getting together, but she couldn't join them because she had another job at the supermarket. When he found out, he searched through all the shops in the area until he finally found her. Of course, she was shocked when he told her he'd gone looking for her specifically. He even bought something from her store just to have an excuse to talk to her. She took him outside to chat so they wouldn't be seen on the cameras. Meanwhile, Jin was sitting alone, reading the girls' group chat and missing them terribly. At that moment, Nan was in the bathroom, thinking about the chef and how he once opened up to her, telling her he only had a high school diploma but understood her struggles. He made her a ring out of paper and gave it to her, saying it held magical energy to help her keep going. Honestly, I don't get what magical energy he was talking about. He himself is all the motivation anyone would ever need. Just seeing him would make anyone want to solve calculus equations from pure inspiration. The next day, Nan woke up to find Jin in the house searching for her ring. They all searched with her until they eventually found it. In the fridge! None of them had any idea how it got there. As for Sherry, her boyfriend was upset with her because she didn't want to meet his family, so he ruined their outing and angrily tried to force her out of the car. Jin saw the whole thing. Turns out the guy had some serious class issues because Sherry was from a richer university with a fancy 3-letter name. He pushed her out of the car, so Jin stepped in, gave him a proper beating, and went after Sherry. When the guy tried to retaliate by yelling at Jin, she cursed him out and stormed off to check on Sherry. She told her, "If that guy is your boyfriend, leave him right now. You deserve way better." But Sherry snapped back, "Look who's talking. Mind your own life and leave this house." Meanwhile, Nan went out to buy a gift for the chef because he won a cooking competition. But the moment she saw the prices of wallets and pants, she said, "No way, the guy already has enough of this stuff. I'm not made of money." So she decided to gift him something small but meaningful. And just as she walked into the restaurant, he was sitting with his colleagues and, bam, he suddenly felt full, like magic. He ran after her with those signature glances and smiles, until she gave him a gift, something small, affordable, and useful for his work, and he absolutely loved it. But the two of them stayed dazed the whole day, like it was their first time falling in love, and the entire restaurant noticed. Eventually, the manager saw that Nan had a bandage on her finger and made a big deal out of it in front of everyone, forcing her to remove it because it violated the restaurant's hygiene rules. Our chef, watching everything from the kitchen, felt really bad for her. That's why he waited until the end of the day to see her, but she didn't come out with the others or even say she had left early. The truth was, her manager had taken her out for dinner. He sat with her, told her about his own struggles. Told her about his own struggles that were just as rough as hers, and tried to comfort her as if he was apologizing for the way he had treated her earlier. Then he gave her a ride home. At that moment, the chef was waiting for her outside the house, and his head was filled with thoughts going in all directions. But Nan didn't do anything wrong. Her heart's in the right place. The next day, he found out she got transferred from server to cashier, and saw how other employees were gossiping about her and throwing accusations left and right. Honestly, poor guy was heartbroken like a mini Tamer Ashore concert playing inside his chest. Meanwhile, as usual, Jin was at the bar telling her friends that she had no lover, no family, no one, not even a stranger to lean on. Her nightmares wouldn't stop. Her lovers didn't care, and no one appreciated her. So when she asked her friend to go home with her, the man immediately ran to the bathroom. He kept crying, and when he finally calmed down and stepped out, he couldn't find her. What's his story too, I wonder? As for Nan, she heard the employees gossiping about her with her own ears, one saying the manager's in love with her, another saying the chef is, and that she played both of them just to use them. She quietly walked away until she found the chef waiting outside, but he just walked ahead of her in silence. She followed behind him quietly until they reached the bus stop. There, he asked her if she knew what people were saying about her, and whether she'd deny it if he asked. She said they were just making stuff up, and asked him if he'd believe her if she said that. He let go of her hand, and she got on the bus without another word. Honestly, it felt like her favorite thing in the world just got jinxed a little. While Nan was walking down the street, she saw Jin coming back, drunk. By the time she got inside, the girls were shocked, and Sherry asked what that girl was doing back here after being kicked out. But Jin snapped and told her she was just jealous because Jin's beautiful and living her youth. Her only problem is the toxic guy she's dating, and that's why she needs to dump him and find someone better. Sherry didn't want to face the truth and escaped into her room. Jin ended up sleeping over again, but forgive me, I've got to drop a bombshell before we get back to Jin because this news can't wait. Nan's manager? Yeah, turns out he's a creep, a full-on harasser. Can you believe it? The worst part is that Nan couldn't even speak up. She feels too small, too voiceless. Please don't be like her. Guys like that deserve to get exposed. Back to Jin now. Believe it or not, Sherry actually showed she had a heart. Even though she was annoyed with Jin, she went to check on her and cover her with a blanket. But Nan had already beaten her to it and tucked her in. The next morning, when Jin woke up and got ready to leave, she told them she wanted to keep living with them, even though she knew she was difficult and not easy to be around. But sadly, no one said anything. They all just stayed silent, so she didn't want to embarrass herself further and left. And before anything else, a new girl came to apply to live in the apartment, but they found her super boring and realized that Jin actually brought some liveliness to the house. So they begged Sherry to agree to bring her back. Sherry just said, do whatever you want. So they all messaged Jin asking her to come live with them again. Even Sherry did. That made Jin feel like, at the very least, someone still hadn't given up on her. As for Nan, she went to work and found the chef acting normal with her. Not only that, he didn't even want to lend the gift she got him to one of his friends. They went back to exchanging glances and smiles. Then suddenly Nan got a call from her mom saying her brother was dying, but by the time she arrived, it was a false alarm. He was still alive. When she returned to the restaurant, the day had already ended, and she found the chef waiting for her. She rested her head on his shoulder out of pure exhaustion and told him her brother was still alive, and that, honestly, she was hoping he would pass this time because she couldn't take watching him stay hooked up to machines, and that death would be kinder. Our guy gently comforted her, but she quickly pulled away and asked if he still loved her. He said yes. Right then she told him not to, because if he did, she'd end up depending on him and becoming weak, and that wasn't an option for her right now. Then she walked away. Later that day, Jin came back to the apartment after giving her boyfriend a good scolding when he asked about Nan with shady intentions. And at dawn, they all woke up to the sound of Nan crying alone in the laundry room from all the stress. Han hugged her tightly, and the rest of the girls gathered around her. Let's move on to Sherry, who was crying over her broken heart after the toxic guy hadn't contacted her since he threw her out of the car. She started reminiscing about the love she used to believe in, though honestly, it's unclear what exactly she was remembering. When Han saw her like that, they all decided to throw a party and invite the guys they knew. They even made sure Lin would invite her classmate, thanks Vatika. Maybe someone would show up who could fix what Mr. Toxic destroyed. And just when it felt like the universe was rooting for them, they found out that Tita Tong was traveling to reconnect with the love of her life, whom she met long ago in some foreign land, which just proves that age is just a number. So the girls used her absence as an opportunity and said, Tita's traveling, we're throwing a party. And they started preparing everything for the party they were going to throw in 3 days. At that time, Sherry was still angry and feeling like her life was boring without a boyfriend. But she would calm down whenever she remembered that her ex was just red curtains, not red velvet. Anyway, the girls began inviting their friends to the party. Han and Jin invited only their closest ones. But suddenly Jin felt like someone was following her, though she didn't catch a glimpse of who it was. Later, we find out it was the man from the bar. Honestly, this guy seems like he's got a whole story of his own. Meanwhile, Nan was on shift at the supermarket, unaware that the chef was watching her through the glass. She was reading through their old messages and reached the one he pinned where he wrote, "I miss you." She was just about to reply and tell him she missed him too, but then changed her mind. As for the rest of the girls, Sherry was still clinging to the hope that her ex was feeling her absence and couldn't enjoy life without her. But after keeping an eye on him, she found out he was living his best life without a care in the world, while she was the only fool still holding on. At that same time, Lynn was at the university chatting with her football-loving classmate, though her real crush was still his friend, and he had no idea. That night, she didn't know that the chef had been showing up outside her house every evening waiting for her to peek out of the window. But what he didn't know was that she was thinking about him too. She even made sure to keep that silly paper ring safe like it was something precious. Meanwhile, Han was teaching Lin how to get Vodka Boy's attention and make sure he came to the party. But you know Lin's IQ isn't exactly top tier. Honestly, if she just told him her story, her life would instantly get better. The next day, Nan went to work and found a group of girls crowding around the chef because he had gotten into a motorcycle accident and injured his hand. But she pretended not to care, playing the whole hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil act because she didn't want to weaken herself. At that time, Sherry was trying to close the chapter on her toxic relationship and went on a blind date, hoping she might meet someone decent. Meanwhile, Lin was trying to tell that asterisk guy about the party before Han ran into him on the stairs. But when she got too shy, she asked her football friend to go tell him instead. But the sneaky guy used the chance to ditch and took her out to eat to comfort her. She ended up crying and said, "My love flew away with the crow." So he replied, "Don't make it sound like you two were Omar and Salma. Your whole relationship was just saying good morning." But she kept the drama going and told him she had already picked names for their kids and hoped one of them would inherit his curly hair so the neighbor girls would envy her. He patted her shoulder out of pure sympathy. Honestly, it was kind of sad. She even considered hiring someone from OLX to act like her boyfriend for 2 hours, just so Han wouldn't see her show up to the party empty-handed. But then you offered to pretend to be her boyfriend in front of her friends in exchange for going to the movies with him 3 times. She refused and told him, "Come on, do you even know how expensive cinema tickets are now? I'd rather hire someone, it's easier." But he told her to stop being dramatic and that he'd pay for the tickets. The next morning, everything was finally ready, and they were all excited about the party that night. Han had invited a bunch of people. When Nan was about to leave for work, they begged her to take the day off and come to the party, but she refused, even though it was obvious she was dying to go and invite the chef too. She ran to catch the bus, but unfortunately it drove off without her. But lucky for her, Han's dad had just arrived and was lost, asking for the address. Looks like the party might be headed for chaos. Anyway, back at the house, Han found out that Nan was bringing her dad over, and she panicked. She told the girls to take down the decorations quickly, because if he found out there was a party and that boys were invited, he'd chase her all the way back home. At that moment, you arrived way too early, before the party even started, so they let him in and made him help out. On the way, Nan's dad kept talking to her about Han, saying, "That girl's so quiet. Just goes from home to college and back again." Nan replied, "You're absolutely right, sir." When he got there, he sat with Han in her room, and from that visit, we learned that Han's mom loves her job and is always busy, which is why they're not really close. Han was shocked when her dad told her she should go out and enjoy life, and if she ever met someone and fell in love, she should let him meet the guy. He said he's always been too strict and never allowed her to talk to boys, but now he sees she's grown up, and it's time for her to experience love. It was a sweet moment, until they heard a noise in Lin's room. It turned out that you had made a mess in there, and when they walked in, they found both of them asleep on Lin's bed. Lin had to hide him under the blanket until her dad left, which made them both feel really awkward afterward. After Han's dad left and they started putting the decorations back up, Sherry found a message from the toxic ex and insisted on meeting him. She was determined to break up with him for good. We also learned that she was always compared to her sister, who was loved more, which made her cling to anyone who showed her love, because she didn't get much of it in her life. But this time, she was determined to break up with him, yet the moment she saw him, she turned into a soft little duck again and said he's full of flaws, but her love for him is stronger than she is, and she can't let him go. Girls, don't be like her. Dignity is way more important than love. Anyway, let's go back to the party, which turned out to be a huge disappointment because none of the fancy boys from Zamalek that Han invited showed up. The whole party ended up with just you, the football guy, the toxic ex, and the older guy from the bar who's friends with Jean. At that moment, Han really felt the burn. No decent guy showed up and she didn't manage to flirt with anyone. Still, the girls didn't let the bad luck ruin their night. They got up, danced, and drank like nothing happened. Han, being a bit tipsy, took the chance to ask Jean's older friend what he really wanted from her. He replied that he didn't want anything, they were just friends. So she turned to the toxic ex and asked him why he even came to their party after dumping her friend. He said he kept apologizing until she forgave him, even though it was her who begged and kept saying, "It's my fault." But Jean was onto him and didn't trust him at all. Meanwhile, Nan went to work and saw the chef on his brand new motorbike. She overheard some coworkers saying that the brother of the girl who had a crush on the chef owns a store and bought him that bike at a discount. She felt a bit jealous. Then she walked in and found the other staff gossiping about her, spreading rumors about her relationship with the manager. It wasn't a good day for her at all. Back at the party, Yu publicly confessed his love to Lin in front of everyone, and she was completely shocked. It wasn't part of their plan at all. Everyone started congratulating them and saying, "Hope you get engaged soon," while she just sat there frozen. But honestly, dear Lin, your little love drama is nothing compared to the disaster your sister Nan is in, because the manager has gone back to crossing the line, taking advantage of the fact that she desperately needs every penny. But this time the chef saw them on the cameras, and only God knows how he'll react. Meanwhile, back at the party, Jean's older friend was about to leave, but Jean stopped him and asked, "Where's my gift?" because she felt embarrassed in front of her friends, since all the other guests brought presents. So the guy gathered everyone around and made them little paper crafts, which they all really liked. Jean even smiled, though deep inside she felt something strange about him and was on the verge of tears. But honestly, the one who was really about to cry was Nan, because the manager didn't leave her alone. He practically forced her to go out for dinner, and just then, she saw the chef leaving on his motorbike with a female coworker riding behind him. She thought to herself that he'd probably moved on and forgotten about her. At the end of the party, Sherry had stomach cramps and rushed to the bathroom, and Lynn followed her. Meanwhile, Jean's older friend went into her room while talking on the phone, and Jean herself hurt her foot. The toxic guy took advantage of her being drunk and tried to help her, while also trying to cozy up to her at the same time. But nobody knew that Jean's older friend had actually been snooping around in her room and found the bracelet she'd been carefully keeping, almost as if he knew what it meant. And finally, the party came to an end. Later that night, Nan returned home, sat alone, and stared at the leftover decorations from the party, imagining herself happy and dancing with the chef. The next day, Sherry suddenly remembered that Lynn once told her crush that her brother was allergic to fava beans, but Lynn had told them all when she first moved in that she was an only child. So Sherry asked her about it, and that's when the girls learned that Lynn used to have a younger brother who passed away when he was little due to a fava bean allergy. So Sherry wrapped up her curiosity session and headed to her boyfriend's place, only for him to take it. Meanwhile, Nan was at the restaurant when two men showed up and asked her to pay off her mother's debts, as if she didn't already have enough expenses. But at that moment, thank God for the chef. He gave them a single look that made them back off and leave. When she went into the kitchen, she found her coworkers talking about pooling some money together to help her. She froze, feeling like her life had just gone live on national television, and stood crying where she was. Later, when she left work, she found the chef waiting outside. She told him that her coworker had already left, assuming that's who he was there for, but he surprised her by saying he was actually waiting for her asterisk and wanted to walk her home. She clung to her boundaries again and told him not to love her, and that it wasn't easy for her to even say this. But he replied, "It's not easy for me to be rejected either, and I can't let you go." Still, she pushed him away and said that if he just stops thinking about her, eventually he'll forget her. But the moment she got to campus, the guy Fatika clung to her and started telling her how pretty she looked and how impressed Siwoo would be. Unluckily, Siwoo was standing right behind them and thought Lin was two-timing him, believing that her reaction to his confession meant nothing to her. He never imagined that as soon as she entered class, she'd be scanning the room looking for him. But he was furious now, and when he saw her, he started mocking her with his friends, thinking she'd used him. As for the bar uncle, He was at home holding the news that Jean was the only one who survived a major accident, and in front of him was also a photo of a young girl. Meanwhile, Jean got a call from the toxic guy who said he wanted to meet her to talk about Sherry. When they met, he told her he knew she wanted him to break up with Sherry, and that, honestly, he wasn't right for her, and didn't even love her, but still didn't want to leave her. Jean replied that she already knew he was way too full of himself. Then he told her about his traumatic past, his parents' divorce, his mother's death, his father remarrying, and said that all this had shaped his messed up personality. But Jean didn't sympathize and told him that was just a bunch of lame excuses and that she wasn't going to feel sorry for him. Of course, that angered him, so he lashed out, saying she was no better and that Sherry had told him she was dating 3 guys who all paid for her stuff, so she shouldn't pretend to be so righteous. Jean threw her drink in his face and walked away. When he got home, he found Sherry there waiting, surprising him with food she had prepared. He sat down and cried, saying he didn't understand how she could love him like that. And honestly, what can we even say at this point? The next day, when the girls found out what had happened to Lynn at the university, they went to Yu and told him that she actually loved him, and he shouldn't judge the whole situation based on misunderstandings. So, like a good boy, he went to Lynn and asked her if she really liked him. He called her, took her to the cinema, then they had food and sang together. Meanwhile, Han was with her guy attending a male dance performance, and he was super embarrassed by it. But on the way home, they saw Lynn and Yu outside the house having their dramatic farewell moment, and Han, feeling like a lovesick fool, stayed to watch it play out, hoping for a cinematic kiss. But Lynn punched Yu in the eye instead, ruining the whole scene. The next day, Grandma Tong came back from her trip, bringing tea and gifts for all the girls. After Nan took her gift, she found a message with it that said to drink tea and clear her mind. A hint for her to ask Lynn, "Since you study psychology, do?" After that, he left. At the same time, Nan returned to the restaurant and found the chef in a terrible mood and the manager already focusing on another girl. Still, she remained proud of herself. As for Sherry, she came back to the apartment after saying goodbye to her boyfriend and found Jin upset. She told her to mind her own business and not interfere. Jin got angry and went to her bar friend's uncle to vent, telling him that the toxic guy was the real cheater, not her, and that Sherry should be mad at him, not her. But what could she do? These are just the scars left by dreams that never came true. Then she told him about the bracelet she had lost, and he struggled to keep calm, holding back as if he was about to burst. Afterward, he went to the bathroom, and that's when we find out that he did have the bracelet all along. When he came back, Jin asked him if they could eat together and if he could just keep listening to her. She was so thankful, and he agreed. Then he asked her to go somewhere with him. He took her to a lake, and as soon as she saw it, she froze. This was where the accident had happened. She asked him why he brought her there and asked who he really was. That's when he handed her the bracelet and said it belonged to his daughter. He asked her if she had killed her. Jin panicked and tried to run, but he grabbed her and started to strangle her, saying, "That's it. She's dead. I finally got justice for my daughter." He even started digging a hole to bury her, but suddenly when he looked beside him, she was gone. He had no idea where she went or how she had escaped death. Meanwhile, at Nan's work, the manager was still harassing the girls before the restaurant opened. He was behaving inappropriately, especially toward Nan, and all of it was happening in front of the kitchen staff, who were all pretending to be blind and deaf, silently watching injustice. And yes, I know we're supposed to talk about the chef, but this is more urgent. Nan had finally had enough. One of her coworkers kept spreading rumors about her, even though she herself hadn't been spared by the manager's actions. So what did Nan do? She walked into the kitchen, poured lemon juice all over her, and said, "Don't laugh at others' misfortune. Your turn might be just around the corner." As for Jin, after escaping from the man's hands, she stayed hidden in her apartment, even though he kept lurking around the building and constantly trying to call her. Things got so serious that Grandma Tong hung up a warning sign outside to alert people about the strange man who kept watching the house. Jin warned him to stay away, but Sherry kept throwing passive-aggressive comments at her, which led to both of them getting upset and locking themselves in their rooms. The next morning, Jin's close friend pulled up outside in his car after keeping an eye on the man. He told her that the guy had been in prison for 7 years. She thought that was a long time for something like that. But it turned out he had beaten up his ex-wife's new partner, the same guy she had cheated on him with, and that she died because of it. Honestly, he did seem to have a sensitive heart. While they were talking, Sherry came out, opened the car door, then slammed it shut again when she saw that the toxic guy wasn't with Jin. She thought Jin was sneaking out to meet him, still convinced she's the center of the universe, even though no one else could stand him. Meanwhile, Nan continued to suffer from the manager's creepy behavior and once again missed the last bus because of him. But this time, the chef caught up with her and gave her a ride home. Before she went inside, he gently advised her to quit the job, reminding her that she didn't have to endure that kind of harassment. Right after that, Lynn stepped outside to throw out the trash when she suddenly heard a strange noise. Someone popped up in front of her, and she thought it was that asterisk man again, so she hit him. The girls ran out after hearing her scream and started beating him up, only to realize too late that it was actually poor Yo. They all went back inside, and Lynn stayed behind to apologize. Taking advantage of the quiet moment without the rest of the girls, Yo gathered his courage and kissed her. But what he didn't know was that he was being watched from the window. Of course, Han, being the ultimate lady of honor and manners, wouldn't miss a scene like that for the world. Meanwhile, Jin ran into the creepy man again while she was out with her boyfriend. He asked her how his daughter had died. But this time, her boyfriend stepped in and pulled her away from him. When she got back home, she realized that Sherry didn't want her boyfriend coming over because she was afraid Jin might steal him from her. So she snapped at Jin for no reason, as if anyone cared about the stubborn tuna she's dating. The funny part? She ended up ruining their outing herself, and left him hanging. When she got home and saw Jin talking on the phone, she assumed Jin was chatting with the guy she likes. Jin had had enough and snapped back, saying it's not like she has bad taste to be into that dumb guy of hers who's clearly using her, and called her stupid for staying with him, saying they deserved each other. The next day, Sherry received some letters from her older sister who was studying abroad, but she tossed them aside without even opening them. It seemed she was still hung up on always being compared to her successful sister. Meanwhile, Nan went to apply for a new job, but on her way, she ran into the 2 debt collectors who forced her to sign IOUs. So she ended up going back to her current job and told the chef that she couldn't just give up at the first hit. She admitted there was still so much she had to face, no matter how hard things were here. Naturally, the chef was disappointed in her decision. At the same time, Jin's close friend went to the man and asked him to give Jin some time, promising she would tell him everything eventually because it wasn't an easy story. Not for her, not for him. As for Sherry, she got into another fight with her toxic boyfriend and went to a bar to drink, pretending to be Jin. She ended up sitting with a group of men. Jin's friends saw her and tried to pull her away from them, but she refused, so he called Jin to come right away. Jin rushed over and managed to drag her out of there with great difficulty. After crying and making a scene, Sherry finally admitted that it was her boyfriend's fault and that she was only jealous of Jin because she loved her so much and wanted to be like her. The two finally made up. The next day, Sherry found the courage to do the right thing and broke up with him. He couldn't believe it and tried to talk her out of it. But the girls stood by her side and told her she might cry for 2 days, but she'd laugh for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, Nan was feeling suffocated by her messy life, professionally and emotionally, until hope returned when she found out she got accepted into the job she applied for. It felt like the suffering was finally coming to an end. As for Jin, she went to the man's house and saw all the information he had gathered about her. She told him that on that same day, both her parents died. And not only that, but she also caused the death of his daughter. He got furious and kicked her out as if he didn't want to hear anything more. When she got back home, the girls were throwing a breakup party for Sherry, but the celebration was ruined when an insurance officer showed up and revealed that Lynn's family had some issues. He noticed similarities between her stepfather's accident and her real father's case, so Lynn immediately contacted her mother and asked her to call back. Of course, she didn't tell the girls anything. Sherry, on the other hand, tried to forget everything and live a life where she no longer thought about the toxic guy. She even took the letters from her sister out of the trash, read them, and replied. Meanwhile, Jin started reflecting on herself, asking who would take care of her when she got older, or who would look after her if she got sick. She realized time was slipping away, and she didn't want to live a chaotic life anymore. Lost in her thoughts, she returned home looking dazed and unfocused, to the point that she didn't even celebrate properly when they told her that Nan finally had an interview before being officially accepted into her new job. The next day, Nan went with the girls to pick out a suitable outfit for the interview, and they even sweet-talked the cashier into giving her a discount. When they got back home, they found Jin had cooked for the first time in her life. As the days went by, the toxic ex kept checking Sherry's account and found her living her life and genuinely happy without him, which made him furious because he thought she'd pause her entire life and live off memories. Meanwhile, Nan got ready for the interview, and the girls cheered her on. She was full of energy, even though she had to take the crowded public bus. Unfortunately, Jin wanted to lend her shoes, but didn't catch her in time. When Nan arrived at the company, she found the two debt collectors there, wishing her good luck because they realized she was a kind-hearted person. As for Jin, her boyfriend showed up with his mother, who told her to cut back on spending because the visa company had complained. The mom gave her such a judging look that made Jin feel completely worthless. At the same time, Nan arrived at the restaurant and told her colleague she'd just come back from the interview. Surprisingly, the jealous coworker apologized for everything she had done to her, and Nan felt like maybe her life really could get easier. Meanwhile, Han was confused about her relationship with her close friend, who clearly wanted something more, but when he thought she was about to throw herself at him, he didn't really care and just asked about the file she finished. As for Lynn, she was standing at work playing on her phone when a coworker came to get her, saying the manager was angry. She left her phone open in her locker and went with her. At that time, Han's best friend ended up going on a group blind date after one of his friends canceled. He started thinking about how he had been worried about her and thought she might throw herself at him after the manager yelled at her. But when he saw her in front of him, he just brought up that silly file topic, acting cool. Luckily for him, she actually came to the blind date, even though just a little while ago, she almost threw herself at him. And now, she was off to catch herself a groom. No giving up on life, really. Anyway, she drank a lot during the outing, and he carried her on his back to take her home. On the way, she told him that she had faked throwing herself just to see if she meant anything to anyone. Since that day, he started feeling like their relationship was heading somewhere completely different. Then Jin found that man waiting for her at her house, and the surprise was that he told her he was leaving the city for good. He told her to live her life however she wanted, and he was glad she survived. The living matter more than the dead. He gave her the bracelet and walked away, leaving her thinking about all the signs telling her to leave the path she'd been on. As for Nan, her shameless manager was being manipulative, accusing her of stealing wine bottles from the storage. He didn't care when she denied it and even started rummaging through her things, causing her to fall to the ground. He didn't care about the chef, who finally broke his silence and stepped in. But when the manager didn't find anything and was about to walk off, Nan told him to pick up her things and respect himself. He snapped at her and was about to hit her, but the chef came and said, "Don't you dare lay a hand on her." Then he hugged Nan and tried to calm her down while she cried from all the anger and humiliation she had held inside. He even walked her home and gave her a hug before leaving. The chef really seemed to be falling for her. But as you know, not everything we hope for comes true. Poor Nani, just when she had finally gained strength from the promise of the new job, got a rejection message that shattered her completely. And one day, the chef was parked on his motorcycle outside Nan's workplace. He sent her a message asking if she had eaten, but she didn't reply. Then she got an important phone call and left work quickly. She found him parked outside, got on the back of his bike, and told him to take her to the hospital. But when they arrived, it turned out her brother was fine, just a false alarm. So she left, while the chef stayed behind and spoke with her mother. Hopefully he was asking for her hand in marriage. Meanwhile, Lynn went to meet her aunt and started talking about her father's death in the accident, saying it's unbelievable that her brother died right after. Something definitely felt wrong with the whole story. As for Jin, she was selling her masks, makeup, and clothes to start earning for herself and begin a new life. Sherry helped her by buying a lot from her. Even though this new life scared her boyfriend, thinking she might leave him because he was heading down a bad path, she reassured him that he would always be her closest friend. So when she returned home, she gave Nan an expensive pair of shoes to wear for her next interview, just in case she got rejected the last time because of her old ones. But Nan told her the problem was with herself, and that her university classmate, who was just as modest as she was, got accepted. That's why she refused to take the shoes. Later on, Lynn sat with the girls and told them she had dreamt of her father. In the middle of it, her mother came in crying, saying that he suspected she was hiding something from him and kept repeating that the one who killed her husband was right there. She cried, feeling unfairly accused, so Lynn stayed with her in her room that night. She even asked Jin to sleep with Nan instead. And speaking of Nan, the chef, while talking with her mother, was telling her how much Nan was suffering and carrying more than she could handle. He insisted that her mom should try to ease the burden on her and start thinking about her for once. The next morning, they all woke up to find that Nan had fallen asleep on the couch outside, but she eventually woke up to the sound of Lynn's mother handing her a letter that had been sent just for her. Meanwhile, Jin had a meeting at a clothing store, and it seemed like she was about to start a new chapter in her life, joining the world of buses and subways like the rest of us, and saying goodbye to taxis. At university, Yu was upset that Lynn wasn't paying attention to him, or sharing what was going on in her life. She even left the lecture early after getting a call from her stepfather. So, he spent the rest of his day hanging out with his female friends. Around that time, Sherry saw the toxic guy at uni with her friends and acted indifferent, like she didn't care, then walked away. He noticed Yu freaking out because a girl had turned him down, though we all know who really wore him down. As for Nan, she went to her mother and handed her the letter, since it had her brother's name on it. She realized her mom was still clinging to hope that he'd wake up. Nan told her that she never thought about herself or even about Nan, then stormed off in anger and headed to work. There, one of her coworkers told everyone they were ready to stand with her against the manager because he'd been acting inappropriately with all of them. She encouraged Nan to speak up, saying, "Let's go, we're all behind you." But the moment Nan saw him, she simply said, "I resign." And when the chef asked her why she made that decision, she told him she couldn't stand it anymore, that he crossed every line of decency. She showed him the photo the manager had sent her, and then she accepted the chef's feelings. "So, go ahead and celebrate, chef. You've got a date with Nan tomorrow. Nan, sweetheart, you're on fire." At university, Yu ran into Sherry and she told him about Lynn's mom staying with them and her fight with her husband, things Lynn hadn't shared with him at all. When he got home, he found that Lynn had brought her stepfather over, and in just 5 minutes he had made up with her mom and taken her back to their city like nothing had ever happened. Meanwhile, Nan told Grandma Tong that she would be leaving the house soon, but this time it was by choice, not because of rent. That's when we learned that Nan had planned to leave when her brother got sick and was going to move into a cheaper place. But Grandma Tong let her stay for free and told her to pay her back after graduation and getting a job. Before Nan left the house, Grandma Tong asked her not to mention anything to the girls and said she would tell them at the right time. When Nan walked into the apartment carrying meat, the girls were all shocked and jokingly asked if she had a fever. Clearly, she was trying to make up for everything she missed. After eating and getting a little tipsy, Jin confessed that even though she had written she was studying fashion and design, that was actually her true dream, and she really wanted to make it happen. At dawn, Han woke up from a strange dream involving the girls, and she found Nan sitting alone. Nan opened up about her brother who was in a coma, saying she hated seeing his life go to waste like that. The way she spoke made Han a little uneasy, especially when she later saw Nan withdrawing all her money from the bank and using it to pay off her mom's debts. After her shift monitoring the store, Han went to meet her crush and told him how strange Nan had been acting that day. Meanwhile, Lin met with their friend, the guy they called Mr. Olive Oil Shampoo, and he asked why things weren't going well between her and Yu. He advised her to be more open with Yu because he was a simple, sweet guy. But of course, the moment Lin saw Yu, she frowned right at him. You had seen her talking to his friend and said, "So you know how to smile and open up to my friend and tell him your secrets. But with me, I'm just someone who doesn't matter in your life." Lynn just stood there frozen, saying she hadn't done anything wrong. He told her he wasn't going to make any more effort with her after today. And honestly, the guy had a point. As for Nan, she went out with the chef and was trying to squeeze all her romantic dreams into that one single date. They had lunch, went to the cinema, and even went fishing all in one day. When he asked her why she didn't leave any of those things for next time, she gave him a look that clearly said, "There probably won't be a next time." Meanwhile, the girls at home discovered that Nan had packed up her things, paid the rent, and was planning to leave. Lynn then found out from her mom, by coincidence, about the letter that came in her brother's name. At the same time, Jin couldn't find the pair of shoes that Nan had once refused to take. Turns out Nan had finally worn them on her date with the chef. They all started saying Nan had vanished like a lost soul, calling out Nell like she was a missing person, right before someone knocked on the door. It turned out to be the two debt collectors, but surprisingly, they brought Nan's contract back with them, saying she had paid everything off. Real gentlemen. They even gave the girls the name of the hospital where her brother was when they asked. Just then, Nan stepped off a public bus and decided to take a taxi for once. Something she'd never done before, like so many of the things in her life that were once and never again. But when the girls arrived at the hospital after her, they found out her brother had died and the police were arresting her mom, who was coming out of the room in a daze, completely shattered. It was later revealed that, in a moment of madness, her mother had removed the breathing machines from her brother. As for Sherry, she received a message from the toxic guy telling her to come get her stuff from his place. When she told him to just send it through a delivery company, he refused and said he wanted to see her one last time. He even sent her a photo pretending to be sick, claiming he had a fever of 40 degrees, one of those old tricks like "my mom is sick and wants to see you." But our girl, a bit too trusting, went to him on her own 2 feet. When she arrived, she didn't care much about his so-called illness, just handed him back the spare key to his apartment and turned to leave. That's when he snapped, locked the door, and kidnapped her. May God curse that guy. He's unbearable. The next day, Nan and Han went to meet with a lawyer for Nan's mother, while Lynn went to visit her father's grave. Jin was busy preparing for the design course she had enrolled in, while poor Sherry, no one could imagine she was actually tied up in that psycho's house. Yes, he's not just toxic, he's full-on psycho, and honestly, the guy is a walking red flag. Sherry, brave as ever, lashed out at him and said she had every right to leave him just like he always threatened to leave her. She told him he never really loved her and that he should just let her go. But his problem was that she had laughed at him in front of people when they met at the university, and he said, "Sorry, but no one treats me like that." She was terrified of him. Meanwhile, Nan visited her mother in jail, who told her there was no need to hire a lawyer. She was content with her fate. She walked away before Nan could even say anything. As for Lynn, she and her family went to the graveyard with forensic experts to find out whether her father's death had been intentional or not. It was clear that her aunt suspected her mother. At that same time, Han went with her friend to visit a classmate who had overdosed on pills and was planning to drop out for good. That made Han remember the night she was on the rooftop. When her friend asked if she was really planning to throw herself off because of love, work, or school, she told him, "Sir, I'm much more trivial than that. I just needed some fresh air." The poor guy was clearly being overly dramatic. Meanwhile, Sherry got worried when she heard the toxic guy drinking and crying, saying he regretted everything he had done and that he was a terrible person. But deep down, he was afraid to tell her he loved her because he thought she might take advantage of it and leave him like his mother once did. He broke down crying and sobbing until he stirred sympathy in her, and it looked like she felt bad for him, so he untied her and hugged her. Whether she truly sympathized with him or was just playing along, only God knows. That night, Hans stayed up late working with her friend on a report until she fell asleep on him, and the guy was nothing but a gentleman. Jin also stayed up, rediscovering the joy of studying, and realized maybe she did deserve a bit of recognition after all. But the real commotion was with Sherry. She tried to escape, but that psycho caught her and beat her badly. Sadly, no one heard her cries or noticed anything strange. The most attention she got was someone realizing her juice was expired, Everyone was too caught up in their own problems. Nan went to visit her mom, and Jin went to the store, where she ran into an old fling. She humiliated him in front of his new girlfriend because he had once scammed her. And our girl never lets anyone walk away with her rights. Later that night, Han finally came home after staying out, just in time to notice something was off with Sherry, who had been sprayed with way too much air freshener despite having allergies. When Han chatted with her online, she noticed her messages were strange, missing the usual emojis, and she claimed she had gone back to the toxic guy, the one she claimed was the only love of her life. That's when the girls rallied. Nan messaged him with a question about something Sherry absolutely hated, and of course, he got it wrong, proving he didn't know her at all. That's when they knew he was lying. They all barged into Sherry's room, searched for the address, and headed straight there, ready to fight. When they got to the building, they ended up in the elevator with a delivery guy. They used the moment when he knocked to sneak into the apartment, by force. The guy grabbed her and threatened to kill her, but Lynn suddenly remembered something related to her, trauma, and stood her ground in front of him. She told him to go ahead and kill her, which provoked him so much that he actually hit her in the neck. The girls rushed to untie Sherry while Nan ran to check on Lynn, and the whole incident ended with the police taking that psycho away, off to spend a few years in a cozy Chinese prison. The ambulance arrived and took Lynn, and the doctor was confused. The girls were shocked to learn that the blow had actually hit her arm and only splashed onto her neck. As the car drove off, they all started wondering why Lynn was the one who fainted and collapsed like that. Then they remembered the poor girl who was almost gone and asked her what happened upstairs. But she also collapsed before she could say a single word. Thankfully, both girls were okay, and they all ended up laughing and joking around at the hospital like they were on some kind of school trip. But then, suddenly, Yu came running in after seeing the news, worried sick about Lynn. He sweetly told her he wouldn't leave her even if she had been hiding something from him. She finally softened and told him she missed him so much. Outside, the chef showed up to check on Nan, and everyone was surprised she was even in a relationship, considering how much she couldn't stand herself or anyone else since the start of the series. Then, just like that, Jin's guy came running to check on her too, clearly worried and relieved she was okay. Han gave her a look like, "Even you, Brutus," and then tried calling her own guy, only to find him fast asleep and totally out of it. She just sighed and said, "That's my luck, as usual." The next day, when they returned home, Lynn went shopping with Han. And while they were there, Han asked her why she had been acting strange and distant for the past few days. That's when Lynn finally opened up and told her that she had seen her father putting something in her mother's water, so she secretly switched the bottles between him and her mother. And as soon as he drank from the one he tampered with, he had a car accident and died. Basically, he dug his own grave. We also find out that when her brother died after their company went bankrupt, it was actually her father who was with him and who took the life insurance money. Now she no longer knows who's good and who's evil. When they got back home, they found Sherry sitting with her college friends, telling them that she started going to therapy and that it was the best decision she'd ever made. But weirdly enough, one of her friends suddenly recognized Han and said, "You're that liar girl who used to act all innocent in high school," which made the girls realize that Han had lied to them about seeing ghosts. Turns out she made the whole thing up, and honestly, shame on those who believed it and thought they were living in some kind of Korean drama. That night, when Han tried to sleep, she remembered how her teacher once stole her articles and published them under her own name, and nobody believed they were Han's because everyone was so used to thinking of her as a liar. Meanwhile, Lynn started to feel like her happy days were numbered, and that once the results from her father's autopsy came out, her life might fall apart. So she said, "Live today, die tomorrow," and took her boyfriend to a hotel. She wanted to tell him everything that had happened, even if he was drunk and out of it. At the same time, the next day, the girls went to the funeral of Ihuan, which, to be honest, barely had anyone attending but them. In the end, the funeral turned into laughter, but after the girls left and Han was alone, she spoke with Nan and asked her, "If it hadn't been your mom who turned off the machines, would you have done it yourself?" Nan said, "Probably, because my brother wasn't really alive or dead, and I wouldn't wish that kind of life on anyone." After that, Nan's mother arrived with the police to attend the funeral. She told Nan how much she had endured, thanked her, and said she did what she did so they could all be free. That night, Nan bumped into the chef at the supermarket. He already knew she had been at the funeral and got upset that she hadn't told him. She treated him like a stranger, and he was about to walk away when she stopped him and said she was sorry, explaining that she was just lost lately and didn't know what she was doing. That softened him immediately, and he said, "Whenever you need me, I'll be right by your side." One day, Lynn was feeling anxious about the test results and told Han that she was scared her dad might have died because of her. But Han reassured her and said that Lynn had no other choice. She did it to protect her mom, and it wasn't her fault. Still, Lynn felt guilty and couldn't bring herself to go to university, so she missed the bus. But Han didn't let it go. She asked her guy friend to talk to another classmate of theirs, who was a forensic expert, to see if a body that had been dead for 4 years could still reveal anything. And if you're wondering why she didn't call him herself, let's just say her reputation got there before she did, and the guy had already blocked her. At that time, Lynn was with her mother at a flower nursery, and something happened that made her explode. She told her mother that she had been hiding behind her for her entire life, pretending to be innocent, when she should have been the one protecting her daughter. Lynn said she now lived in constant anxiety because of her, and added, "If there's a villain in someone's story, it would be you, Mom." Meanwhile, Tong's friend had gone to meet a colleague and got the data, learning that the test results were about to come out. It was just a matter of time now. But what he didn't like at all was how his colleague seemed to see Han differently from other girls, and had even left his number for her in the envelope. Looks like we've got someone getting jealous here. But let me tell you, things weren't going great for Sherry either, because the whole university was talking about her, calling her the girl whose boyfriend kidnapped her. Back to Han and her friend, we find him eating the love letter his colleague wrote. Like, seriously, bro, if you love her, just say it. What's with all the drama? Anyway, when Han got back home, she couldn't find Lynn. She tried calling her, but Lynn's phone was turned off. Right after that, Tong's grandmother told them that Lynn's family was looking for her, and Han started panicking. She had no choice but to tell the girls everything, and they all went out searching for her, but couldn't find her. And they gave her a proper scolding because they were really worried about her. Lynn told them she had decided to live her life and stop dwelling on the past, and the girls promised they'd always be there for her. Right after that, the guy from the insurance company showed up, and he brought the results with him and told her that her father had died of natural causes. He apologized for all the confusion that had happened, and Han confirmed it too after her friend sent her the official report. And just like that, the whole situation ended with a happy conclusion. Meanwhile, Jin went to meet her friend who got shocked at her new haircut and asked, "What have you done to yourself, mystery box?" She asked for his opinion on a gift she wanted to buy for an old man, whoever that was, and he told her he had feelings for the girl who came to him the last time, clearly hinting it was her. But she played it cool, didn't give him a clear answer, and just walked away. At that time, Sherry was reading a letter the toxic guy had sent her from prison, apologizing and saying he regretted everything and wished her a happy life. It gave her some peace of mind. As much as she felt sorry for him, she was also happy she was finally free. She had no plans to return to the therapy group again, but then she saw a guy joking with his girlfriend on the street, and it hit her hard. She realized she still had trauma and hadn't fully recovered from what happened, which made Lynn understand that all signs pointed to Sherry having PTSD. She encouraged her to go ask her therapist more about it. As for Jin, she went to meet her friend's uncle and gave him the gift she mentioned before. But this time they met in a cafe because now she was a proper innocent lady, or so she said. The man told her he was traveling for work, but might return one day to walk her down the aisle if she ever gets married, as if she were his own daughter. Meanwhile, Sherry's college friends were trying to set her up with someone to help her move on from her fears. Lynn was watching all this and remembered the advice from her therapist, so she decided to head home early and figure out what she should do next. When Sherry came back, she found Lynn crying, saying that she had broken up with her boyfriend. But it turned out to be a trick to get Sherry to open up and talk about herself. But then the power went out, and that almost triggered a panic attack for Sherry. The girls comforted her, lit candles, laid out blankets on the floor, and turned the night into a cozy girls' night under candlelight. One by one, they started sharing their own experiences. Lynn said that because of the girls, her personality had become more social. Nan said she was planning a trip to finally unwind after all the stress she'd been through throughout the entire series. Jin opened up about the lake incident and how it made her hold on to life more tightly. Han talked about her mother, who always chose work over her and never prioritized her daughter, and also about the teacher who stole her article and claimed it as her own. She even told them about the first time she met her friend, how they bonded during a school trip to the library, and then went on to say again that it wasn't love. They were just friends, nothing more. Finally, Sherry spoke and told them everything that had happened to her when she was kidnapped, crying as she relived the trauma, and the girls cried with her. In the middle of all this emotional release, we find out that the whole situation had been planned from the start to help Sherry open up and finally face what she went through. And it wasn't just the girls in on it. Even Grandma Tong was part of the plan. And she was the one who cut the power. Yes, it was all part of the plan. Mission accomplished successfully. The next day, Han's friend felt like maybe their relationship could turn into something more, but our girl, Mashallah, shut that idea down real quick, and he immediately regretted speaking up. As for Lynn, her relationship with her boyfriend was now stable, and she no longer saw Vatika Oil Guy as handsome, because you had become her very own Omar Sharif. Nan told her boyfriend that she was going to travel because she wanted some alone time to relax and asked for his number so she could send him letters. He was thrilled that she cared enough to stay in touch and wasn't just ignoring him. Jin went with her friend to say goodbye to his uncle before he traveled, and the man asked them to look after each other. She was deeply moved, especially when her friend said he was going to leave behind his reckless ways, become a top model, and hopefully one day showcase Jin's designs. And because we're wrapping things up, the girls didn't want to leave Grandma Tong wandering around looking for the foreign artist who once drew her and said she was more beautiful than anything he'd ever seen. So they managed to find him and bring him to her. Turns out hearts do find their way back to each other. Even Sherry, our chaotic sweetheart, calmed down and thought they looked super cute together. And our summary ends with the girls continuing their lives together, striving for success, improving their personalities and careers, but without forgetting their youth. You too, don't forget your youth. Try to live and enjoy life in the way that brings you peace. May God keep all the toxic people away from us because we just want to live in peace. I hope you enjoyed today's recap, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any recaps. And tell us in the comments, could you live in a shared house with strangers, or is that just not your vibe? And let us know which girl's personality you love the most. See you